Hello, friends. This is VanArendonk Baugh, and I still don't have a catchphrase. So I want to welcome you to tonight's stream, which I am a little discombobulated, and so I apologize in advance. I have been trying to put things together when I discovered that this was not going to be a multicast after all, so we're just on Twitch tonight. I apologize for the chaos if you were seeing my several frantic messages on various social media. Hopefully you have found your way here, and we will take it as it comes, because that's how we do things. That's how we roll. So I just have a couple of real quick housekeeping things before we get into the meat and the fun of tonight. First up, huge, massive thank you for all of you guys who were here and somehow made me a Twitch affiliate in like 3 weeks, which is insane. So I am just thrilled and so very grateful. And that was did not get enacted because, again, I was supposed to multicast tonight, and part of the affiliate terms of service is that there will be no simultaneous streaming. And I was supposed to have Susan on tonight and promised that that would be on YouTube. Well, that didn't work out for various YouTube reasons. So we are just doing it on Twitch tonight, which means I ran through the affiliate thing as fast as possible so that you guys could get loyalty points for viewing tonight's stream, which is great because that's how I'm going to be doing the giveaways. And I don't know if you didn't see them before, I have so many things I have no idea if this is showing on camera. Look, these are for the writing craft talks, and I have lots more stuff. And so those will be going out over the next few weeks, and they will be done through the points. So you get points just by watching or for interacting and various things. So you don't have to do anything except be here. So hopefully that is all working as of now, and you can get it for the stream. Yeah, and then I don't know. I should be more organized. I should have a list. So if you are not on my newsletter, please go ahead and get on that, and also on Susan's newsletter, and we'll talk about where those are later tonight. Speaking of, we have a guest tonight. Guest. It sounds so weird to say guest when I don't feel like guest implies a show, and it's really just like me talking. So I don't know if that's whatever. So anyway, the point is we have Susan Spann tonight, and I am absolutely delighted to be chatting with Susan. I'm a little bit giddy, probably showing. So Susan is a friend of mine. We actually met because we both write stories set in historical Japan, and then it went from there, and I'm just gonna nerd out for the next however long we're here with Susan. I do want to throw up very, very briefly. Actually, you know what? Let me bring Susan in first. And we're gonna do that now. Hey! Hi, Susan!
Hello, how are you?
And I can hear you. Life is fantastic. Okay, so very, very quickly, I just want to mention Susan is live from Tokyo, and then I am restreaming out to you guys. So there is a little bit of delay in the chat. Which, by the way, I just noticed Grace is here. Hi, Grace. Thanks for stopping by. Am I wearing TARDISes? I am not wearing TARDISes. I don't know where you're asking, but there are no TARDISes. So, if these are not TARDISes. They're just cute. But thanks for stopping by. Grace, meet Susan. Susan, meet Grace. This is thoroughly international right now. Grace is in New Zealand. Susan is live from Tokyo. And where I was going with that is there is a little bit of a streaming delay. So by the time we see your chat, we've actually probably moved on for 20 seconds or so. I noticed during Gen Con, sometimes it could be quite significant delay. So if we keep talking, it's not that we're ignoring your question. I'll run back and grab it. Just there's a little bit of a delay, so just be aware. And sorry, Susan, I was going to tell you that in advance, and you found out just now. So I apologize.
I know it. It's all good. It's all good.
Okay. All right. So with that said, we're going to launch. And part of the reason that I asked Susan here is she has a new book, which is largely an excuse, but we're going to start with it and run with it as a, legitimate excuse. And I'm going to hope that come on, there we go. She's like, oh no, come on, please focus. Oh, there it comes. Okay, ta-da. So my copy actually hasn't arrived yet. I ordered, even my ebook copy didn't come through, so I need to have a small tantrum so that we just have that picture. That's what we've got to work with today. But
It's all good.
Oh, hey, Seeker. Thanks for waving. So, Susan, I'm going to let you introduce the book because you're going to say it so much better than I have. I've tried to encompass so many themes every time I talk about it, and I just end up kind of sounding. I just keep saying it's better than what I'm making it sound like. So I'm going to let you do the encapsulation of it, please.
Okay. So the book is titled Climb, Leaving Safe and Finding Strength on 100 Summits in Japan. And it basically summarizes what happened after I decided that I was going to break away from fear and stop living a life that was ruled by fear and ruled by the things I couldn't do, and attempt to pursue my dream to climb 100 famous Japanese mountains in a single year, having never climbed a mountain before in my life. And then right after I decided to do it, I got diagnosed with cancer. So that became part of it too. But as you say, it's many things, but ultimately what I really hope that it is fairly fast-paced, surprisingly, even though I wasn't, adventure in the mountains and culture of Japan. And I hope something that will make people realize that if you dare to dream, you can change your world.
And thank you for that sweet, sweet segue, because one of the things I wanted to mention is, I'm doing this video channel for in a variety of things because I'm generally bad at branding. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was is my own work, because it's the me show. It's all about me. And while I am terrible at branding and I do way too many things and I'm unfocused, the thing that always is in there somewhere is somebody discovering they have agency that they didn't know they had. And I realized that is the absolute perfect tie-in to bring you in, because I mean, as you said, like, oh, I've never climbed a mountain before. I think I'll do 100 in a year. Like, what is that? Like, I want to make a life change. I light a scented candle. Okay. You want to make a life change. You swap hemispheres and climb 2 mountains a week. So I feel like that is a legitimate invocation of finding agency that you had not anticipated. We have a couple more people in the chat. I'm just going to say hello real quickly. We have Nan Van, hello, and Pastor Chris coming in from NorCal. So fantastic. Okay.
Hey, Chris, that's going to be. I know him.
Yeah.
Hey.
So all the waves, yay. So with that as the what am I trying to say? The springboard, I guess, of, you and I'll just say, coming back as somebody, I met you some years ago and you were from the outside looking in, you had success. You were an attorney, you were a successful author, you had a series running. I wanted to be you, all of this is going on, but you said it didn't feel like that inside.
No.
Yeah. So, so I guess what prompted that change? Because that's a pretty huge change I mean, you were traveling to Japan regularly, but then to be like, hey, I'm going to move here and climb 2 mountains a week. What was the tipping point that actually set you over there?
I think it really was just finally deciding to listen to my heart. I mean, for years, I had just fallen in love with Japan. My heart would ache every time I would come back and look at my photos from my trips, from my research trips. It would hurt. It would physically hurt. And I could only think about being there, but I was too afraid to really admit to myself that I wanted to be something more than a lawyer. That was what I was doing for my day job, and that I wanted to go try to do this thing that was real. I had spent my whole life not doing anything real. I write books. I love to be in my fantasy worlds. I love to read books, but I had never dared to step outside that and do something concrete. And I finally decided that I was tired of being afraid. I was tired of worrying about what if. I was tired of every single decision in my life coming from a place of fear. And the only way I could think of to face that was to throw everything into the wind and jump out without a net and see what life would bring.
There is something to the, burn the ships approach. We're going to try this and we're going to make sure that if I decide to go forward, there is no going backwards. So I have to continue forward. But that's not the fun and easy way to do it. I think I think that's, go ahead.
I was too scared for any other way, though. I mean, I was too frightened to do it at all. And literally the only way really was, burn the ships. Let's do, we're going forward.
Yeah. Well, and I am, like I said, it's such a huge thing. And then I'm giving, so the slight spoilers here, but I already said that you beat cancer in the video promo. So people know cancer is involved. but that was a ridiculously fast diagnosis and reaction. And I mean, I remember you messaging me, and if I'm recalling correctly, or something like, by the way, I have cancer and I'm having surgery in 2 days. Like, it was, how fast was
Yeah.
that? Like,
The official diagnosis came on a Monday, and I had a double mastectomy the following Thursday. So 3 days.
that's insane, by the way. Like, that's, I, let me just throw some judgment from over here on the side of the ocean. But I mean, but that's and if I recall correctly, that was right before you moved to Japan, right? Like, what was the time frame there?
Yeah. In fact, I signed the book contract. What happened was I signed the book contract. I had the idea to do it. I started getting things started in I started actually making preparations. You have to have a visa, obviously, to come over here. You can't just, willy-nilly for a year. And so I had to come over and sign my visa contract. So I had airplane tickets for December 20th. And on November the 6th, I went in for a routine mammogram just to get that out of the way. And on November the 7th, I found out that was did not go as planned. They found cancer, which was malignant. And then on the 10th, I had a double mastectomy, and I was on a plane for Tokyo on the 20th because, as you do, I had just signed the contract. I was moving forward, and I just thought, well, I talked with my oncologist, and he had said that I did not stay, by the way, in Tokyo in December. I came back for treatment. But my oncologist just said, you're going to climb 100 mountains. This is 101. And it's the first one, and it will be the hardest, but we're going to get you through it so that you can go. And so we delayed my moving to Japan by 4 months so that I could undergo intense chemotherapy. And you know what? We're 3 years almost down the line, and everything's good.
That's amazing. And just I mean, that's a major surgery, double mastectomy. Like, that's not a 2-minute laparoscopic procedure, right? Like, and the people I've known who have undergone that's a fair amount of recovery time. And so be like, and I'm gonna climb some mountains. Like, that is how. What did you have to make any changes? Did you have to make any alterations in what you were doing? Did it make it? I mean, just like how did that affect things? Because that is not how you were planning to do this.
No, it wasn't. So we did, as I mentioned, we had to put a 4-month delay on coming to Japan in the first place, because after the double mastectomy, even though they did get the cancer, it had not moved into my immune system. The oncologist recommended, because my cancer was what they call triple negative, which means it was not responsive to hormones. So I couldn't take anything. Some women can now take a pill after they finish their treatment to keep the cancer from coming back, but that wasn't available to me. So went through a 4-month course of very intense chemotherapy. We went through the level of chemotherapy for stage 2 cancer, even though I only had stage 1 cancer, because we wanted to make sure that we did everything we could possibly do to prevent it from coming back. And so my training, which had consisted primarily of walking, because I wanted to be in shape, I basically had to continue that during my cancer treatment. I would give myself the day of the treatment off. And then after that, I started walking again, 2,000 steps more every day until I hit over 10,000 steps. And then we'd continue that for a week. And then I'd go back in and get shot full of delightful chemicals and start it all over.
Wow. That's, I mean, just again, it's 101 mountains, and that most of your other mountains you were able to do in a day, or 2 if you overnighted on the mountain, and that was a long haul. So that's going to be a part of the book that is going to be, I don't know how to say this without sounding horribly crass, but unfortunately relatable to a lot of people of struggling with.
In some ways it made it.
I'm sorry, I lost you there for a second. In some ways,
That's okay. No, no, sorry, I stopped. I was like, oops, I'm talking over.
no.
No, I think it was really important. I think it was actually an important part of the book. And it was also a really good life lesson, which is that when you tell the universe, I think I'm going to face my fears. And your biggest fear is actually getting actually breast cancer. Be really careful what you ask for because you might just get it.
There's, yeah, there's a certain, God has a sense of humor, and I really don't believe it's an evil
Amen.
sense of humor, but there are times when it's an uncomfortable sense of humor. Yeah. Yeah. Oh
Well, and
my gosh.
I did actually. I am a person. I am a person of faith, and I did actually, when I was getting ready to come to Japan, say, God, I'm going to face my fears, and I want to face my fears and come through it and be strong and be different. And I really, that was answered yes in spades. And so
Yeah.
it was like, okay, well, I didn't really realize we were going to. The funny thing was, there was a part of me, and I mentioned this in the book, there was a part of me that kind of went, wait. I wanted to say face my fears in a safe way. I didn't mean all of them, but you don't. That's not what life is. And so it was much better actually in some ways that I got to face all my fears at once and kind of move through it.
Yeah, and so this is the part I haven't read, and I'm waiting anxiously for mine to come so I can dig into that stuff. Let's talk about something not cancer for a while. You did originally
Good.
yeah, originally you were talking about doing the 100 peaks, like not just 100 peaks, but the 100 peaks. Which, since I'm going to guess that a lot of our viewers are not familiar with Yakumizan, could you summarize that and then talk about where that went?
Yes. There was a very famous book in Japan, at least, written in the 1970s by an author and mountaineer called Kyuya Fukada, called Nihon Hyakumezan, which translates roughly to the 100 Famous Mountains of Japan. And Fukada decided that he had been a mountaineer for a long time, and he decided that these 100 mountains, if you climbed them all, you would learn what the essence of Japanese mountains were. And it has become kind of the gold standard for Japanese mountaineers, but not for a short period of time. In Japan, it's viewed as something that you do over a lifetime. And over that lifetime, you accumulate knowledge and understanding and a spiritual bond with the mountains. And of course, being an American, decided I'm going to do it in a year. Because, no woman, no non-Asian woman had ever climbed them all in a year. And to my knowledge, no Asian woman either, because as I said, that's not the way Japanese people do these things. And so I decided I'd do that in a year, and realized fairly early on, and without doing too many spoilers from the book, not too early, about a third of the way into the climbs, but realized that I had to make a choice. I could face my fears, or I could achieve a mountaineering first. But I couldn't do both. I could not learn the lessons that those 100 mountains had to teach me if I rushed my way through it. And I came to the decision, which was hard, being kind of an alpha goal motivated person, which I really am. I mean, like you talk a lot about goals and motivation, and how the way my personal clicker was achievement of success, and I had to get there, and I had to achieve the thing. And so making the shift to address what were for me really issues of personal growth, that was a much harder decision, and something I struggle with it openly in the book, and ultimately decided that the goal was 100 mountains in a year and not living a life of fear anymore. And so that was the direction I decided to proceed. But by the way, I'm still climbing the Hyakumezan. I've climbed 2 more since I finished the 100 summits.
Yay.
So that's still on the horizon.
So it's still going to happen, just maybe not in that first year. So
Yes.
all right. So what I don't think I put this. I don't remember if I put this in any of our video promos or not. But I had the absolute delight of getting to go to Japan and climb with Susan at the end of her journey, and that was fantastic. And one of the things that you explained, I was doing this because was just the choosing of the mountains and choosing mountains of significance, either culturally or historically or personally. And one of oh man, I probably should have made a script. Okay, but one of the final mountains we did, and I'm totally blanking on the name. I have like 2 syllables, but in Nara, and it's ridiculously
Temple
famous.
on.
I'm sorry.
Are we
It's
talking to the little temples on?
no, 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 no,
Or
no, no, no. In Nara, next to Mikasa-san,
Wasakusa.
but it's Waka. What is the
Wasakusa.
What? Yes, yes. And I'm just sitting here and I'm like, I've got 2 syllables, not enough. Where's the rest of it? Um, but that is, I had so much fun. First of all, I just had a fabulous time walking around, learning so much of the local history and significance there, because you had the inside track on quite a lot of that, and which I think at some point we're going to have to talk about. But even after I came back and I'm looking up more things about where I had been and the significance and the festivals and the historical sites there that I had been. I was like, oh, I've been there. It was great. And so I know that obviously that's a mountain with cultural significance. Koyasan has a lot of historical and cultural significance, and is also one of your favorites. And now I don't know if I get to have favorites, having done like 3. I'm not even sure. But if I can say 25% of them is my favorite, the Koyasan would definitely be up there. But can you talk just a little bit about like what? I'm not going to ask you to pick favorite mountains because that's not fair. But if you want to, just tell us things like something we absolutely need to know about Koyasan, or something like that, to just give us a little teaser on what mountains we need to come and read up on.
Okay, well, I had a wonderful time on so many mountains because there were so many that were so different from each other, right? So we did go to Koyasan, which also is home of Japan's largest cemetery. In fact, I ended up making 4 trips to Koya over the course of my mountain climbing year, because Koyasan it's a mountaintop plateau that sits in a bowl surrounded by peaks, and so there were lots of different peaks to climb up there. Koyasan was also the place that I went for a climb that didn't happen. And so the book will talk about that climb that didn't happen and why. And that was a moment of facing mortality that I, was certainly not planning, but ended up being one of the most special experiences that I had. Another thing that was really great was when I was up in Hokkaido, I had the chance to climb up the side of a waterfall. Mount Sharidake has an old trail, and the trail actually literally leads right up the side of a waterfall for a little over 100 meters. So you're climbing kind of up this rock face, and the waterfall is just flowing down next to you. And that was a really fabulous moment. That was also where I saw a very famous Japanese animal that I will not mention because you have to read the book to find out what it was.
Teasers. Awesome. It was Pikachu, wasn't it? Just right there sitting.
Actually, I did see a Pikachu. I actually did see a Pikachu in Hokkaido, but not on that particular climb.
Yes. Awesome. Excellent. All right. So Tempo-san came up just a little bit, and I definitely think we need to go back and talk about Tempo-san, because I'm going to say this and hope it doesn't sound insulting. As spectacular as it was to finish mountain number 100 with you, mountain 101, I think, was its own special joy and experience. And so
it was the perfect cap. It was the perfect cap.
It was ridiculously fun. So Tempo-san, and feel free to jump in here at any time. I'm just going to mention, in Osaka there is a lump of dirt which was constructed when they dredged the harbor a couple centuries ago. Got the name Mount Tempo-san, and I don't even remember how. Do you remember how it got on the geography maps? The Geological Society listed it as a mountain. Do you remember the story behind that? I should have done my research.
Yes. It was actually created in Japan. International mountaineering standards are that a mountain is supposed to be, I think, 1,000 meters in order to qualify as a mountain. But Japan has a little bit more relaxed definition of what qualifies as a mountain. And so anything of geological significance, or historical, or religious significance, which is a lot of the mountains in Japan, can be qualified as a mountain. And so the Japanese Geological Survey decided that Tembozan, which was actually created during the dredging of Osaka Harbor during the 18th century, even though it is only, very short, did qualify as a mountain. And yes, I've carefully avoided the actual height because I wasn't sure if you had a way of revealing that or not. But it was definitely a challenging climb. Mountaineering challenge.
The challenging part was finding the mountain to climb. Okay. So
when
there's
everything in the surrounding area is higher than the mountain,
it really is. Like there's it's great because there are old wood block prints of this mountain, which is in a park next to the harbor, and like Susan said, it's been around for a couple hundred years as just a local park phenomenon, but it has settled over time, and and so we accidentally climbed the wrong mountain first because it was taller than our goal mountain, and we're walking around the park at night, and there's a Ferris wheel with like the kanji for hell on it. It was just, everything was fantastic.
It was an evil Ferris wheel. It's like blood red.
It was flashing red in the night. Like, yeah. So anyway, the ascent of Tembozan was one of the most thrilling and giddy adventures of my time there, and I will let you do the big reveal if you choose to here on the exact height of Tembozan.
Yeah, well, we actually we will be doing a joint. I'm just going to throw this out there. We will actually be doing a joint blog post about this, and we'll probably maybe cross post it on both of our websites shortly to celebrate the release. Because I have photographs, so I'm sure you do too, from this event that are just in the archives waiting for the perfect reveal of us ascending this peak, which rises a towering 3.5 meters into the air.
It's phenomenal. Like to summit,
I can spit higher than Tembozan.
To summit, you go up the side, and then there's actually a little lump of you step over and then step down onto the summit of Tembozan. It's a thing of beauty. So yeah, that was the
but there is a summit marker.
There is a summit marker. Like, we got selfies with the summit marker. It's completely legit. So yeah, that is a I look forward to our expedition log for that. It was the perfect cap. It really was. And then we ate okonomiyaki, which was also fantastic. And then I went to where was I? Oh, I was at a street festival in New Zealand with Grace, who's in the chat somewhere. A couple of months later, and they had an okonomiyaki booth, and I got all excited, and it was absolutely terrible and nothing at all like what I wanted. Oh. So it just hurt because I just had such good stuff not that long ago. So, all right.
We'll do it when you come back, which will come back.
I am going to come back. And I wanted to, we were talking about goal setting and whatnot, and traveling. And so Susan and I were supposed to, with another friend, Erica, we were supposed to hike the Kumano-Koto this fall. And that, which is a pilgrimage trail that's 1,000 years old. It's one of two UNESCO designated trails. The other one being the Camino de Santiago. And then just this week, of course, 2020 happened. 2020 right over all of our plans. So, but you are still going to make that trip this fall, and then we're going to do it again as a group later.
Yes, and by the way, it's in the book as well. I walked it during my mountain climbing year, so that's actually mentioned in the book. Kumano-Koto features in the book as well.
Awesome. So I was going to ask if you wanted to give a little teaser about that, since it is, again, something of very special historical significance.
The Kumano-Koto basically is a trail that winds through the mountains of Wakayama Prefecture, which is south of both Tokyo and Kyoto and Osaka. It's south on a little peninsula. And it has been walked by retired emperors. It was tradition for the Emperor of Japan when he retired from public life, also for a lot of samurai who retired from public life, and members of the imperial family, even when they were still active in public life, to go and walk this approximately 100 kilometers, 150 kilometers trail through the mountains as a pilgrimage and stop at the 3 Kumano Grand Shrines, which are very important shrines to Amaterasu Omikami, the sun goddess, the chief deity in the Shinto pantheon. And so it was a hike that I took originally in 2018 after wanting to do it my whole life, as a break and moment of consideration midway through my 100 Summits journey to see where I would, to reflect on where I was and where I wanted to go from there. So that does feature in the book as well.
Excellent. Yeah. So, and I wanted to throw open, I don't remember if I mentioned this, but if you are here in the chat and you have questions, please throw them into the chat. We're just going to be a little, like I said, possibly slight delay on seeing them, but this is absolutely open for discussion or Q&A or funny jokes or whatever. Jump in at any time. That's fine.
Indeed.
So, I'm sorry.
I just said indeed.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You're just a little bit quiet on my monitor, so if I'm talking, I miss you or I cut you off. So apologize. So let's talk about something else that's not the book, because since we are friends and I see your social media, I know that you have an exhibition coming up in a fairly cool hobby. I don't know. Hobby is hobby a bad word for that? I don't know. Is that a right word? Tell me. Is that? It's not a profession. It's not a vocation. It's but hobby to me, like as soon as I said, I was like, no, that's when I play my casual phone game. Like that's like, Angry Birds level of no. Anyway, Susan, you pursue traditional Japanese calligraphy. Please tell us a little bit about what's coming up because I've been seeing your progress and it's really cool.
Yes, thank you. So yes, I study Shodo or traditional Japanese calligraphy here in Tokyo with a master who is very, very, very talented. And I've been training with her for about 3 years. I started actually during the 100 Summits climbs. In fact, there's a little bit about Shodo in the book as well. And I study both kanji, which are the Chinese characters used in Japanese writing. And I also study kana, which is the Japanese syllabary. So the hiragana and katakana for people who study Japanese language, together referred to as kana, which are phonetic. There is an older form of writing kana that was used in the 9th, 10th century. And going forward, a lot of the original novels like Tale of Genji were actually written in kana or in a combination of kana and kanji. And it's a separate art from writing the kanji. And so that's where I really excel, although I study them both. And I did just find out that I have been invited to participate in a exhibition that happens annually at the Tokyo Metropolitan Museum of Art. So my work will be displayed there in January, which is really cool.
Which is just slightly cool, like just
yeah.
Just a little bit. Yeah. No, that is very cool, and it makes Susan incredibly useful as a traveling companion, by the way, because it means she's familiar with these older forms of the characters, which then when I'm at a museum and I'm looking and I have no idea what this says, and Susan can just read it off for me like that. Yeah, it's great. So, okay. And the way that I'm going to jump way back here in time. The way that I first encountered Susan before we met in person was I read one of her books, and then I stalked her on the interwebs and found her. But she writes the really fun, and these are not the first in the series. Can I do this without getting glare? Okay, I think I can do this. These are later in the series, but they're the ones I've got with the really cool new covers, so that's why I'm showing these off. And then my other ones are an ebook, so that's a little bit harder to show off. But the Shinobi Mysteries, which has one of the best premises. You have a ninja as your amateur detective who can't tell people how he can solve crimes by knowing how murders are committed, because when you're a ninja, you're not supposed to let that slip. So it is one of the greatest premises on I have to solve a crime, but not make it look like I'm solving a crime. I have a good time with it. And Hiro is working with Father Mateo, who's a Portuguese priest. So there's a lot of fascinating cultural, historical interplay going on. And so I'm just going to throw out a plug that if you need to catch that, you can start with Claw of the Cat as the first one, and then we'll go. So, I'm sorry, we have a question in the chat that I was happily just rambling on and missing. Nan Van, who is my mom. Hi, Mom. She asks, Susan, aside from the massive fact of moving to the other side of the world, having cancer surgery, and becoming a new mountain climber on a deadline, what was the most intimidating aspect of moving from the USA to Japan, especially doing so on your own?
I think the most intimidating aspect for me, actually, curiously, people do ask, what was the hardest part of it. The most intimidating aspect of it for me was dealing with the massive, well, there were two, right? The internal one was dealing with the massive fear that, what was I thinking? There's a lot of we all act like, and she went out to face her fears and she did it. Now she's not afraid anymore. And while in the short form, that's true, the entire first third of the mountains were very angst filled, because one thing that's really true, if you go to face your fears and you do something that's designed to put you outside your comfort zone, you will not be in your comfort zone, like guaranteed. Like that's
by definition. Yeah,
it was the point, but it wasn't always comfortable. In fact, it was very often that the thing physically that was the most difficult was that even though my Japanese, I was able to read Japanese when I came over somewhat, my Japanese skill was very small. And when you go traveling in the mountains of Japan, in Tokyo or in Kyoto, there's a lot of English. And you can really, I advocate for people to come to Japan, because you can really do a lot here, even if you don't speak Japanese. But when you start going out into the countryside and into places that are not really tourist places, that places that mostly only Japanese people go, then by definition, there's a lot less English. And my language skills faced a very big challenge, a mountain of their own, you might say, especially because when you go out and you're the only non-Japanese person on a mountain, everybody wants to talk to you. They want to know what you're doing there, where you came from. And, in the beginning, I would just stare at people. But, now, of course, I've learned and I can talk with them. So that was a challenge, too.
So not directly equivalent, but related. My husband and I went hiking in Ecuador in the Andes a couple of years ago, which was fantastic. So we did a backpacking trip for several days. But I'm used to being able to get around if I need to in Spanish. I actually lived in Spain for a time. I certainly have perfectly decent enough, tourist Spanish that even if I go to some place that's not peninsular Spanish, I'm going to be able to, order a meal and get directions, no matter where. But, and I can usually have, conversations about hot air balloons or just random stuff that will come up. But then in this rural, exceedingly rural part of the Andes, and, we're trying to find our way, and of course, there's no signage. There's, we've got a general idea of maps, but that kind of thing. And so I'm stopping and talking to the farmers, and oh my gosh, I remember at one point we're trying to figure out our way to the next village, and I stopped and I asked for help, and I had probably 7 minutes of detailed directions from the local farmer. He had 3 teeth and a kind of Spanish native dialect, and he just kept going for 7 minutes. I got 1 word out of it, just one. And at the end, I thanked him, and I turned and I walked away with my husband, and I'm like, we're just going to walk until we find something. Like, there was nothing. But we're so used to, and I think what was making me think of this is we're so used to, in our modern age, having so many fallbacks. Like English is very prevalent in most international cities. You can find some English signage or someone to help you, or or we'll pull out our phone and use a Google Translate, or it just any of these things, and it's not. Those aren't always available, and that is a huge stretch when, and you're like, oh, I could walk off the backside of this mountain and no one would ever see me. No one would know, like, kind of thing. And yeah, so that's, it just made me think of it when you were talking about being out in the rural area and needing directions. And like, I've had conversations on art theory in Spanish. Like I'm okay in most cases. And then over there, I was like, they will find our bodies in 2037. Like,
I got nothing.
I got nothing. So, we have a question from Pastor Chris. Sorry, I was just waxing emotive there. Susan has an artful and special gift for character dialogue in her Shinobi Mysteries. I'm wondering how or if internal personal dialogue finds its way into her experiences while writing Climb.
Absolutely. In fact, in the Shinobi Mysteries, Hiro, my detective, is the sort of the POV character. And periodically in the books lapse into italics, which are Hiro's internal thoughts. And, he, not too often, but enough that I think they add to the book. It's a way to get into his thoughts, because my narrator is third person close for all the writer geeks among us. And so as I was writing Climb, I started to realize that this book was not, there is dialogue in the book. I did preserve dialogue where I could with people. I took copious notes so that I would have the words exactly right for the book. But yes, I also discovered where Hiro's internal monologues come from. There is an internal narrator in my book, and it is also in italics. And that is partly because my internal critic was absolutely opinionated about some of the decisions I made over the course of my journey, and I decided to give that internal critic a voice of its own. So yep, it's in there. Enjoy.
Do we get arguing with the internal critic? Because I do that
all the time.
Okay, yeah. That's
all the time. Yes. Yeah. No, my internal critic was very fond of telling me that I was going to die in moments when it was really not very helpful. And so how I dealt with that, and those fears, and actually there was curiously there was a dramatic evolution in my relationship with my internal voice over the course of the year. I mean, which surprised me, and I didn't realize it fully until I had gotten to the end of the year and was looking back over my notes and went, "Wow, our relationship has changed," and that was fascinating to me. So that's something else that you will see if you read the book.
Yeah, and that's one of those intriguing things that, when you're experiencing that minute change every day, you don't notice it because it's so small. But when you sit down and you go over compiled notes, or you go back to old journal entries or whatever, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a really huge shift. So that's one of the things I think is fun about reading someone else's experience. Like I can see a huge change because I'm not living the minute shift every day kind of thing. So I don't know if I said that in any way that makes sense. We're going to move on and pretend that it did.
No, it does.
Okay.
It does.
Thank you.
Yeah. And plus my internal voice is also really sardonic. And so, very snarky and not always helpful really, but means well, I think. And so there's a lot of snarky internal dialogue that goes on in the book, and that was kind of fun too.
I'm always down for snarky dialogue, internal or external. So yeah, that's my thing. But except when it's not helpful in a life or death situation, then you're like, can you just save that for the debriefing? Be good. So okay.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So we were talking about Hiro and Father Mateo, and that it is a series. I hope I was saying, start at the beginning, because while each book is self-contained, there's also an overarching plot running through it that I'm probably not going to beg for spoilers and reveals here, but we never know. I might lose all inhibitions and just I'll have no shame. But that is, I'm going to mention this because we had a number of people who came to this Twitch channel originally because of the Japanese folklore and story time from Japanese history and those presentations for Gen Con. And so if you are interested in the Japanese history, like this is your classic shogunate period piece with the history running alongside these characters. So it's a really fun way to get that. And so can we get a little bit of a legal teaser on what's coming next? What is this? Is this book 7 that's next? What is
8? Book 8 will be next. Book 7 was Ghost of the Bamboo Road.
Ghost of the Bamboo Road, the 7. Okay. Yep. Okay. So what's up with book 8?
Book 8, well, Hiro and Father Mateo, to bring up to speed anybody who sort of is getting into it now. Hiro and Father Mateo they first started out in Kyoto, where Father Mateo was basically trying to establish a mission to the common people, separately from the primary Jesuit mission, which historically worked with the samurai. And I kind of set it up that way on purpose because it gave... After being in Kyoto for 4 books, there was a series of events that forced them to flee Kyoto. Won't give you a spoiler on that, but just know that they're now on the road. They've been on the road. They have traveled to Koyasan. They have traveled what would become the Tokaido between Kyoto and Edo. And now they are finally arriving in Edo. So in book 8, which is called Fires of Edo, they arrive in Edo, and they are having to deal with a series of fires that have broken out there. And in the aftermath of one of the fires the following morning, the body of a samurai is found in the burned out shop of an artisan. And the question is, what is an artisan doing with a dead samurai in his burned out shop? And how did that man get there? Because the artisan claims that he knows nothing about it.
And do we have a projected release? I know 2020 has thrown so many schedules off. Is that I'm gonna quickly pass over that because I have a book delayed by 2020 and we don't want to even bring that up. So, but is there a longer view? Is that a 2021 release or do we know yet?
It looks like it's going to be 2021. We will hopefully have an update on that soon, but I think it is going to be 2021. My apologies to everybody. I've had a book out every year since 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 2020 decided to stick its finger in the eye of publishing all around. And so I think that's
2020. Yeah, like I'm voting 2020 off the island. We're all done. Thanks. Yeah.
Listen, I think the phrase 2020 vision is going to mean something very different when we're all through.
It really is. Yeah. That's, what did I see recently? It was like, hindsight is 2020 was actually a time traveler phrase that we have totally misunderstood. It's just, yeah.
I know we're all looking forward to 2020 being hindsight. How's that?
Yeah, that's for sure. So, okay, we have another comment from Nan who says, I just discovered that our local library system has 5 of Susan books and Climb is listed as an option. So yay. So,
awesome.
And I'll just like mention, for anybody out there who's not in the writing industry, never feel guilty about getting a library book of somebody's book. Like that is still supporting the author. The author still gets paid because somebody bought that book. Library books are great. Please get the library book. It's fine. Yeah. So, yeah.
Support your local libriaries. Libraries are a lifeline in so many ways for so many people.
Especially in 2020. Yes. Yeah.
I fell in love with Japan by reading James Clavell's Shogun, which I got from the library when I was like 11. And so, I mean, seriously, like support your libraries. They are life-changing. They are wonderful. Big plug for libraries. I am totally, people say to me all the time, I'm so sorry I read it at the library. I'm like, what is that to apologize for? That's not an apology. That's
fantastic.
Wonderful. Read it at your library.
Yeah. And that's another thing too, that I'll frequently tell people, like if you can't afford to buy every new book that comes out somehow, like with a lot of things, requesting them at the library is a fantastic way to support an author whose work you can't afford in that moment. Like just put in a library request. It's great. Oh, she says she would like you to know that she did order a copy of Climb. I'm sorry?
Thank you. I was going to say, and for people who might not know, because a lot of people don't know this, you can go into your local library and say, I'd like to read book X. Can you order it? And libraries have a budget for doing that. And so, you can go in and get them to order the book for you, and then you can read it for free just by asking. So,
Or in
ask for it.
2020, you can request the book online. So you don't have to go in.
Yes.
Yes, because yeah, Susan is safely in Tokyo, but we're still here in the land of thou shalt not touch people. So if you order stuff online. So anyway, yeah, so she has her copy coming. She ordered it last week. So just you the libraries and ordering. We have covered all the bases at this point. It's fantastic. Okay. What else? I'm sorry. I just there's a Doberman in my lap now. She just showed up. And you've got a cat still near you, right? Is she still there? I'm going to introduce you to
Yes,
your.
she's on. She's sleeping.
Can we?
Yeah,
Can we
let's
get a
do
peek?
this. I'll try it here. Ubi, there she is. Ubi, hi. What?
Ubi's like I'm busy. I have important watching things to be doing. So we were talking before we got started. Before I realized that that this would actually be a really great thing to ask you about on the air, so to speak, which is Ubi and Ubi's your cat, and then you have a crow that has been coming to see you, and they are a little
I
bit
do.
of friends. Yeah.
Yes, Japan is very famous for its crows. Japanese crows are very, very large. They are the Corvus brachyrhynchus, or the large-billed crow. It's actually Corvus japonicus brachyrhynchus, I think. But the Japanese crows they tend to be large enough that most people from the States think they're ravens. They're very, very large. They're very smart, and they live everywhere. And there's a whole family of them that lives in the trees of a shrine not far from my house. And one of them has decided to sort of befriend Ubi. The crow will come and sit on the television antenna of the neighboring house and look in the window at her, and she would look at him or her. I'm not sure exactly how the crow identifies in terms of pronouns, so we'll just go with that. They look in the window at Ubi, and Ubi looks out at the crow. And so I decided to start giving the crow an offering every morning. And so the crow likes donuts, so it doesn't get a whole donut, it gets pieces of a donut every morning. And so Ubi will sit at the window and wait for hours for Hachi, which is what we call the crow, to come and take the donut. And the reason that we call it Hachi is that in Japanese legend and myth, crows are actually harbingers of good. They are messengers of the gods, and specifically, they are messengers of Amaterasu Omikami, the sun goddess. And the most famous such crow is Yatagarasu, the 8-span crow, which is a 3-legged crow of Japanese myth, and also the symbol of the Kumano shrines, which we mentioned earlier. And so Yata Garasu is a way of saying 8-span, meaning the wingspan of the crow, because it was supposed to be very large. But another way of saying 8 in Japanese is Hachi. And so in honor of Yata Garasu, the 8-span crow, I call this crow Hachi, or 8.
So I'm feeling like a little bit dumb right here, because I've always known the crow's name as Hachi, and I've always just thought of it as the number 8 in my head. But with Japanese phonetics being what they are, Hachi could have been something else that I just wasn't aware of. But then as soon as you said 8-span crow, I was like, oh, hold on, I'm going to catch up here. So yeah, there we go. Grace in the chat is observing that you have an opportunity to say cronut when you give Hachi his little donut pieces in the morning. So
Yeah, what if I missed that? Yes, I did.
That's okay. It makes me feel better
That's
about
awesome.
the Hachi thing. So yeah. Okay. So okay, great. Sorry, I'm still stuck on cronut puns. Like it's great. All right. So I'm realistically, like, I could just sit here and nerd for a while, because I'm honestly in some sort of grieving stage, withdrawal, I don't know what, about missing my Japan trip with you in October. So excited. I should have brought him up here. I have a little tiny bit of, I don't even remember what they're called, but they're tiny little flower-shaped sugar candies, and we bought them in Kyoto last year. and on the street with all the candy shops. And I have just a few of them left, and I'm rationing them out like one every 10 days or something, because I'm not getting to replenish them. And so that I have no idea what they're called. I don't even know, like, they're not even my favorite thing, but what I have left, darn it. And so anyway,
They were traditionally a gift. Those actually were invented as a gift for people who came to see the emperor during the Edo period. No, it was pre-Edo period. Star-shaped candies.
I'm sorry, we lost your audio there for just a second. So Emperor Edo period, and then something.
The candies were gifts for people who came. That style of candy was originally gifts for people who came to visit the imperial family. They were sort of like gifts for people who came to see the emperor. So they are very, very Japanese.
They are, and they have a little sheet with them with all the colors, and I don't know if they're supposed to be flavors or meanings or what. I haven't actually looked at the sheet. I just keep it tucked in with it just in case it is important. But I'm slightly embarrassed to tell you that if I've got it out and I treat myself to my one, and then it sits there and I look at it, and my husband will come by and take one, and I have to stop myself from being like, it's all I have. Like it's my little resource guarding there. It's pathetic. But yeah, I put up a video, just a tiny little snippet, because I was trying to cheat the algorithms, and I needed to get word out that we were not going to be on YouTube tonight, that we were just going to be on Twitch. So I cheated and put it on Facebook with a video so that the Facebook would show the post. Like, that's how you work the system. And so I pulled a little snippet of video from our visit to Team Lab's Borderless, which is the phenomenal, I'm going to say art. It's a walkthrough art installation. I don't know another way to describe that. But it's a huge building. It's fantastic. Everything is done with projection. If you guys like, go and hit it on the YouTubes. I'm angry at YouTube right now, but you can look this up. It's okay. And it's Team Lab Borderless Tokyo, and they have constant rotating exhibits. I saw they just have a new one out. I recognized the room it was in, but the lights, the installation itself is new. But everything is done with lights and projection, and it is just phenomenal. And we went there. I think it was the first visit for both of us when we went, right? And
yes, it was actually, and I've been 5 times since. So that should tell you something.
And I'm not remotely bitter about that at all, like at all, because this is, even if you're sitting here thinking, oh man, like art museums are okay, but no, like this is the art museum that after 7 hours you're like, wait, I need to go now. Like it's so much fun. Everything, a lot of it is interactive. All of it is trippy. Yeah. It's, I probably had a point to that when I started, but I just got excited and started talking about Team Lab Borderless. So that's where we are now. Go Google that, people watching. Find some of the really cool stuff.
Yes, indeed. There. In fact, I have some videos from that I'm going to put up as well. So there will be some more videos of that coming soon too on my channels.
Yeah. And let's talk about your channel, because you are just starting a YouTube channel, right? Like where can we find you, and what can we expect to see?
My channel is just in my name, which is Susan Spann, and my shtick with it is it's Spann in Japan. So it's all different kinds of things about Japan. Right now I have some videos that I shot, very short ones, from the 100 Summits, and one from Kegon Falls, which is a 97-meter waterfall in Tochigi Prefecture. That is one of the most beautiful waterfalls in Japan. I will actually be doing probably 30-minute a day daily videos edited on the Kumano Kodo this autumn. So when I go to walk it, I'm actually going to shoot video and then edit and cut so that we have basically an entire walk along the Kumano Kodo, basically like 30 minutes a day worth of video with narration, with explanations. I'm sorry about that. I know it's, I wish you would be there.
I will be watching every one of those videos on loop. I will probably suspend it on my phone, like from a little wire in front of me, and I'll go walk around my yard with it in front of me, like a pretending. Yeah. So, Go
There
up a
you go.
couple
And then we will
blocks.
shoot in 2021. We will shoot it in 2021, another set of them. But so, and then I'm going to go to all different kinds of things. We're going to do food. We're going to go order ramen in a ramen restaurant and eat ramen. We're going to do shoji and ryori, which you and I ate, which is the Buddhist temple cuisine, which is amazingly,
Amazing.
spectacularly beautiful. So I'm basically
Amazing.
going to do videos on nature, videos on culture, videos on everything and anything from daily life in Japan to little remote villages to eating weird foods. Maybe we'll go have some basashi, which is horse meat sashimi, things like that. So it's just all different kinds of things, everything from nature and culture on.
So your favorite new travel channel. We're gonna go. I'm gonna get my daily hit there. So, okay.
Yeah.
So, and I mentioned
And I'll be posting
newsletters.
about once.
Okay. Okay. So roughly once a week. All right. And I'll work out a schedule here at some point. I you were talking about like needing to just start and then burn the ships, and that's basically how I'm approaching this streaming video thing, which is okay, I should probably do this. Let's just do it. It's happening now. Wonder what I'm talking about, like so. But yeah, I do plan to actually have a schedule and to get what am I trying to say? A schedule where people can see, what's going to be the topic. So tonight we're talking about craft. Tonight we're talking about business aspects. Tonight we're talking about what's going on in Japan with Susan and all of that. So stay tuned. It'll happen. I promise. If you want to see when that happens, look how smooth that was. Didn't even see that change. Check out my newsletter and Susan's newsletter to get updates on her releases and things. And hang on. It's right. Burp, 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 burp. And then Susan's is boop, boop, right there. And so you can see you can just head to our websites and pick up the newsletter there. I believe both of us have freebies just for signing up, right? Like that's.
I haven't Yes, I haven't quite got that settled in yet. So
Okay.
I'm actually just getting started with the newsletter. So patience, and I won't. The thing I'll tell people is I do not spam you. Like I send mine's about a quarterly. It's very seldom. So it's not the kind of thing where if you sign up for it, you're going to be like getting something in your inbox every 15 minutes. I mean, like, what am I doing here? So
yeah, I'm the same way.
You'll forget,
It's every 2 to 3 months, unless I have a new release, in which case it might be more often. But yeah, that's
exactly.
No spam, pinky swear. Yeah, it's not going to happen. So
yeah.
Okay. Well, we have been doing this for an hour. I just looked at the clock. That was fun. So
Doesn't feel like it.
Is there anything you want to slide in? Because my plan is just to expel this out. Also, now I've publicly committed, right? My plan is to poll this video, which honestly, I'm hoping I hit record. Did I hit record? Please tell me I hit record. I did not hit record, which means I'm going to be doing some technological wonders to get this video back. And then it will get subtitles and it will go on YouTube. And as soon as I get that back. So that's how we're going to do that. And then, I'm sorry, just experiencing a small adrenaline spike right now. Good job, me. And then that will be on YouTube with subtitles. But is there anything that you want to add before we quit? For the evening or morning in your case?
Just the only other thing I would mention is that if people like Japan and want to see more photos from Japan, in addition to video and things like that, that I do have a Facebook page. It is Susan Spann Author. And on that page, I actually do all kinds of photos, typically just about every day, photos from traveling in Japan, photos of life in Japan, food in Japan, all different kinds of things. So if you're into Japan, you want to see photos, stills, as opposed to video, check out the Facebook page and you'll see all kinds of things.
That is true weird. Because it is definitely a highlight in my daily. People talk about doom scrolling in social media right now, and yours is like the bright spot in the doom scroll. So positively can recommend.
I don't do I do no politics, by the way. I do no politics. I do no commentary. I do pretty pictures of things that are moments of peace and oddities that I find in Japan. And I do that deliberately because it's not that I don't have opinions, but I feel like there are lots of opinions in the world right now, and you can find opinions everywhere, and some of them you might agree with and some of them you might not, but I feel like people kind of need that little oasis, and that's how I see my role. So
Yeah. Well, I am going to call it here because we have been going over an hour, and I'm thrilled that we got to do this and chat with you. That was been a lot of fun. Thank you, all
thank
of you
you.
who joined us and gave us questions and whatnot. I appreciate that. And yeah, so Susan Spann, her new book is Climb. She also has the Shinobi Mysteries, and we will. I don't know what's happening next week. I've got sort of ideas. I'll let you know. It'll be on the schedule. So that's my there's
Awesome.
my promo. So Susan, thank you so much for being with us, and I am going to wish you a fantastic. Is it Friday? It's Friday in your world. So have a great.
It is Friday and a holiday weekend. And believe it or
Oh,
not, this weekend is Mountain Day. Or we have a holiday for what Japan calls Mountain Day. So of all the great timing.
that is fantastic. All right. Well, you have a fantastic holiday weekend, and the rest of us are going to slog through
Thank you.
one more day until we get to the weekend. So, all right.
You can do
Thank
it.
you. Take care, and thank you
Thank you.
guys so much for joining us. Bye.